like, well, this is what we think a child wants to read, or this is what we can sell, and people will buy it. But my concern was that, the children wanted to read the book, because I wrote these specifically for what's known as in the industry as a reluctant reader, which isn't necessarily a child that can't read. It's that they're that's what it sounds like. They're reluctant. It's like, well, I remember some of the books from school. I mean, I love to read, but I don't love to read everything. There's some things that I read, and it's like, well, okay, and I passed the test, and I did well on it because I read, but it's not something I would read, in my spare time. I made something that kids would want to read. And then what this does is it makes things that you have to read easier. Just like most of us don't want to go to the gym to work out. But when you do, it makes those things that you have to do in your life, like bring in the groceries and that, it makes those things a little easier. And that was my goal with this, is to make those things that you have to read for school a little easier, because you know that there's things out there that you love to read and you can do it.
Well, that's what I find exciting. Now, what other books have you written? Let's let the listeners know the other ones in the series.
Well, there's 8 books in the series. The second one is The Totally Ninja Raccoons Meet the Weird and Wacky Werewolf. So, of course, with the weird and wacky, it's a werewolf, but he's not too scary. He's a little weird. He's a little wacky. And then the third one is The Totally Ninja Raccoons and the Secret of the Canyon. I live a short distance away from the Pennsylvania Grand Canyon, and I take an adaptation of a local legend, and I use a side-hill gouger. So a side-hill gouger is a creature from Pennsylvania folklore. My fourth one is The Totally Ninja Raccoons Meet the Thunderbird. So a thunderbird, of course, is a creature from Native American folklore, and there are actually well-known thunderbird sightings close to where I live. And the fifth one is The Totally Ninja Raccoons and the Catmas Caper. That is the super special Christmas edition, which is great for this time of year. Now, in this one, the cat board convinces Krampus, and I'm sure, for those out there that are unfamiliar with Krampus, he's really become popular in modern-day popular culture. Krampus is kind of the anti-Santa Claus. He's a creature from Germanic folklore, kind of the one who takes care of the naughty children, except my Krampus is a little kinder and gentler than the Krampus as he's depicted. And the sixth one is The Secret of Nesmic Lake. Nesmic Lake is a local lake, and of course, Nesmic, what does Nesmic sound like? Well, it sounds a little bit like Nessie. So in the Nesmic Lake, there is a Loch Ness Monster, as well as a unicorn. My seventh one is The Totally Ninja Raccoons Meet the Little Green Men, and that is Aliens. That takes place at a local state park that is known for the stargazing. And there I put in a little bit of science, and with the Perseid meteor shower, which takes place every year around August, the raccoons are out watching the Perseid meteor shower, and they see one that lands, and so they get to meet aliens. And then the last Totally Ninja Raccoon is The Totally Ninja Raccoons Meet the Jersey Devil, and that is, of course, the Jersey Devil from Jersey, New Jersey folklore, and the Jersey Devil is in Pennsylvania. And I just recently put out, about a month ago, the Totally Ninja Raccoon joke book. And this is, you don't have to have read the Totally Ninja Raccoons for the joke book, but when I was putting these together, I put in some corny, fun jokes in these books, because children love jokes. And,
well, do you have a joke you can tell us out of the book?
Yes. So how does a werewolf eat an elephant?
Well, how does a werewolf eat an elephant?
One bite at a time. And that's kind of a good, and I use that, like I go to schools and I do some presentations and I use that joke. How does a werewolf eat an elephant? Well, one bite at a time, because like one of the things with these books is that they're not very thick. Because one of the things I've noticed with like talking to children and and like showing them several books to choose from, is sometimes a really thick book can intimidate a child. And one of the things like I use like this joke for is like, how do you read a book? Well, you read it one page at a time. You take it a little bit at a time, because a real thick book like War and Peace, or of course a child wouldn't necessarily be reading War and Peace, but like an adult like might not have read War and Peace because it's a big book. But you read that book like you do every other book. You do it one page at a time. So I make these books. The chapters are fairly short. Each chapter starts with an illustration, and I keep the chapters short so that the child can feel a sense of accomplishment. They do a chapter and like, oh, that wasn't so bad, and then they want to go on to the next chapter. And these books are probably about they're between 4,000 and 5,000 words, so that's the equivalent of about a short story. But it gives in order to before you run, you have to walk, and it gives them a feeling like, well, I've done that book, I can do another one, or that wasn't so hard, I can do one a little bit thicker than that.
Well, a lot of kids, because I had 8 kids, and I know what they were like when it came to reading books. If the book was a little bit too thick, I'll tell you what they did. They started reading it, and the next thing they did was put it off to the side and never finished it. What I did notice about this book is, they sat there at Thanksgiving, and they read it from the beginning to the end, and then they read it again. And then they asked me some questions, which, hey, I just kind of winged it. But, they really liked the book. And that's the problem with a lot of adults. They buy books that are probably too advanced for the age of their child. It doesn't really, it's not exciting. It doesn't draw you into it. It's not fun. And this is book, I can honestly tell you, to the listeners out there, it draws you into it, and even as an adult, I skimmed through it and I was rather impressed. So, I mean, hey, it's a good book, and that's what we need is more of this series. Are you planning to write any more, or is this the end of the series?
Nope, I'm writing more. So the next one is I started working on it. It's going to be the Totally Ninja Raccoons Discover the Lost World, and that one is going to have dinosaurs.
Oh, wow.
Because children love dinosaurs, and I don't think you ever really outgrow dinosaurs, so of course I still love dinosaurs. And it's going to be kind of a take on, it's going to be inspired by the old lost world of Conan Doyle, the creator of Sherlock Holmes. He wrote a dinosaur book. How like people on an expedition go to the Amazon in South America and discover this plateau with dinosaurs on it. So
they even made a movie of that. You know that, and I watched. Mm-hmm. I cheated. I never read the book, but I watched the movie.
The movie's really good, and the book is good too. And dinosaurs are interesting, and they're going to discover dinosaurs, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the dinosaurs, and they're going to have adventures and be fun, because that's the goal of these books. Now, I don't talk down the children in these books, but my first goal with these is to make them fun, because like you said, I want to make sure that the child reads the book. You can't read a second book or a bigger book until you start somewhere and read a book that, till you finish a book. And my goal with this is to have a book that is fun and that they want to finish, and then they want to read more. And then once you read one book, it's like, wow, that wasn't as tough as I thought it was. Just like, you can't get to 10 push-ups if you don't do one. So first you learn how to do a push-up, or first you learn how to do something, and then you realize that it's not as hard as what you thought. And that's, like I said, that's my goal with these, is to make reading fun.
Well, I'm going to give you a little hint, though. My grandkids are saying, hey, does he have a book on space? So, the kids are really intrigued on UFOs, space, and, Mars and stuff like that right now.
Well, they're really, like, Mars is, like, I loved watching the stars when I was a child, and I still do, and that's they're going to want to check out the Totally Ninja Raccoons Meet the Little Green Men, because in that one, I talk about meteor showers, and I talk about aliens, and like, are aliens real? What would aliens look like? Of because the thing about aliens is that they're alien. So we don't really know what they would look like. So this also, and that one I kind of leave it open-ended, too. That's the only book I read where it's a little open-ended at the end.
Okay. Now, go ahead.
Oh, so I kind of, because like my goal with these is also to make kids curious. So they read, because there are some other books about aliens and space, and so that they want to read more. So, and like you said, I'm always asked, like, when I do a presentation at a school, I always ask what children would like the raccoons to meet next, because I want to get them engaged, and it also gives me ideas of what children are interested in today, because I know what I was interested in and still am, but it's one of those things that I write these, but I interact with children like most every day. They come into the bookstore, so I know that I keep in touch with what is going, what they're interested in.
What are young kids actually really interested in nowadays in reading? Because, talking to like my son about his, 3 kids, and they range from, I think, the age of 9 years old all the way down. And he said the main thing is it's really hard for them to even look at a book. They don't want to look at a book. I hate to say it, they want to play little video games on their cell phone. Yeah, one of them has a cell phone at 9 years old. And they want to watch TV and to, get them to read a book. He was just as much shocked as I was when they picked up the book and started reading it and enjoying it, because a lot of young kids don't do it. So what are since you have a bookstore and you go to the school and do presentations, what are you finding with young kids with reading nowadays?
Well, it is hard, even because kids do have, quite often kids have shorter attention spans than adults, because that is something that you have to learn. And sometimes, sometimes as adults we don't have as long an attention span as you want. We have Facebook, we have Twitter, and so one of the things that is good is to find out what the child likes. So one of the things that it's kind of hard to go wrong with, but most kids love animals. So that's one of the reasons why I picked raccoons, and the characters in my books are animals. So they're raccoons. Now they're ninja raccoons, and I do give them personality traits of humans and that. But like one of my goals is to have good dialogue. There's kind of they're all brothers, so I grew up with 2 sisters and lots of friends who were like brothers to me. So I have kind of that sister-brother dynamic going on. So kids, are familiar with that dynamic. The kids love animals and ninjas. One of the reasons why I made them ninjas is kids love martial arts, and they do and I love movies, and I loved movies when I was a kid too. But so I kind of did something that martial arts. Now they don't do a lot of ninjas in this. Don't do a lot of fighting. They do a lot of exploration. They do. I have them learn some positive traits. Like, for example, in The Secret of the Canyon, I have them learn compassion because they investigate. It's kind of a mystery, so they investigate what they think is a crying baby, and I go into the legend of the crying baby. But what they find out that it's a side-hill gouger that has fallen over. And a side-hill gouger, for those of your listeners that are unfamiliar, is a creature of Pennsylvania folklore that lives on the side of the hill, and one set of legs is longer than the other, so they can run along the side of the hill. But what would happen is if a side-hill gouger would fall over, it'd be pretty hard for it to stand back up on its own. So what the raccoons in this do is they come together and they help stand the side-hill gouger back up. So one of the things with kids is to find out what they like to do. So there are, Star Wars is popular. So there are books about Star Wars. There are books with ninjas. So there are a lot of books out there with that. But there's not a lot of books with cryptids, and that's one of the reasons why I wrote these. And one of the reasons why kids love Bigfoot, they love werewolves, is because these are, and why this is, I think, is, and one of the reasons why I like it is, the unknown really attracts people. The curiosity, one of the things that humans have always been, for good and for bad, is curious. Sometimes our curiosity gets us in trouble, but I feel that